Thanks for logging on to myfoxhurricane.com. We now have Tropical Storm Gabrielle. First thing this morning, this was classified as Tropical Depression number 1. That was at 5 o'clock this morning. And then by 11 o'clock this morning, we now have Tropical Storm Gabrielle. Although, as I start to show you some of the information from this is not a really well-defined system. It's really looks like it is struggling. In addition to that, we also have this other area that we're watching working its way off the coast of Africa, pushing on towards the west. That has been dealing with some of the dry Saharan dust, and it looks like as it continues to work its way towards the west, conditions just not all that favorable that we're going to see a whole lot of development with this. That's why you're seeing those percentages pretty low for that system, at least for now. We'll see if that changes, but the prospects for that system not looking all that bright. But you look at the view, here's that close-up visible satellite loop, and you're seeing some areas of convection, but we're also seeing a lot of this dry Saharan dust still affecting that northern side and wrapping around this system. Not a whole lot of convection. Now, earlier this morning, they actually had the center down here, and then they relocated it when they got another pass of what we call a scatterometer. It's just a high-tech satellite that senses the winds inside of these systems, and when they got that information, they were able to relocate that center. But you notice there's really not a whole lot of convection right near the center. You've got this big burst of convection on that northern and northeastern side, and then down on the southern side. Likely it is still dealing with this dry air, and there's also some strong wind shear on the northern side of the storm. So as you watch this track going through the next several days, you're seeing this basically very slowly starts to intensify. You see those winds 50, 60 miles an hour, even as we head into the weekend. We're still talking about likely Tropical Storm Gabrielle. Then eventually it starts to find its way into an environment which is at least a little bit more conducive to see more development as it's turning more towards the north, becoming a hurricane. Bermuda's in here. They're going to be watching that very closely. Then we've been talking about the different computer models really having very good agreement. And you're seeing that again in the short term, pretty good agreement. But then as we get into this turn, all the models are indicating we're going to see this sharp right-hand turn and take it out over open waters and away from Bermuda. It's really about the timing of when all this will happen, because we have some computer models that are basically just bring this right on up and then quick turn and shoot it off towards the east. Then we have other models like our own, like the American GFS model, which brings this up to the north and then kind of stalls it out for a day or two and then moves it on towards the east. So could be some timing issues with this as we go through the next several days. So here we are looking at that. We've got the European AI in that peachy color, and then the GFS in red. So here's that location right now, basically that broad area of low pressure. This is not a well-defined system at this point. And notice as we head through Friday, still pretty good agreement. It's working its way on towards the north and the northwest, and we continue to have pretty good agreement all the way up towards close to Bermuda. But by Tuesday of next week, you're already starting to see some of those changes in the timing. The AI model maybe not picking up with this system as much. You've got the GFS down here still to the south of Bermuda, but notice the European has already pushed it by Bermuda. It is already pushing it out towards the east. We continue on through next week. The European has already swung this out of here, and the GFS rather is still at least has it in the neighborhood of Bermuda, still making that turn. So you see, they all do the same thing. It's just a matter of how quickly or how slowly they do that over the next, say, 5 to 7 days. Now we're looking at our own Fox model here, and you're seeing that developing system, and it's slowly developing this. But notice as we go through time, you're not seeing a big explosion of convection with this. It's still a fairly limited looking system. And the reason why is, at least in the short term, we're looking at an environment that's not completely conducive for development. And it looks like as time goes on, it will continue to be dealing with some dry air and conditions that just aren't as favorable. So you look at that wind field as we go through the next 5 days. And really interesting to look at this, because what you're looking at is you're seeing those winds. This is looking at the peak wind gust of the system, but you're seeing them pick up into that tropical storm force. So it's definitely starting to intensify, but then you see that lag where it looks like almost the system starts to maybe weaken a little bit and then starts to pick back up in intensity once again. So we're wondering what's going on. Why would the model be suggesting something like this? So what we're looking at is maybe the environment isn't completely conducive to allow this system to really flourish and strengthen. We're looking at the mid-level moisture. So as you go up through the atmosphere, do we have a nice moist atmosphere or do we have dry air in the atmosphere? This could be an issue as we go through the next several days. What you're seeing right here, this is some of that dry air in the mid-levels of the atmosphere where we get what we call dry air intrusion into this system as we head towards the weekend. Then as we continue through time, it looks like it starts to deal with a lot of that dry air, and that will allow the system to continue to re-strengthen. So that may end up being some of the issues that we see with this system over the next several days, dealing with conditions that aren't quite as favorable, maybe some dry air intrusion, some of these things that will come along and affect the strength of this system. And then we watch that timing of the East Coast trough, the ridge, to see how this all plays out, how quickly this makes this turn and eventually works its way out over open water. So still lots of things to watch with this. No threat to the U.S. That's the most important part of this, is no threat to the U.S., but it is something we will watch right here on myfoxhurricane.com.